Hey everybody, coming to you today to talk to you about a couple of lifting prescription methods, RPE and RIR. Now they're very similar. They're actually just inverted scales of each other. And they're subjective in nature. They can complement percentage-based programming or velocity-based programming. But we'll get into a little bit about what they are, their pros and cons, how you can use them in conjunction with what, and just kind of lay out the framework of what it is and how to use it. So real quick, RPE is rating of perceived exertion. So this is how hard the set is. So if I do a set of 5 and that set is maximal, that would be an RPE of 10. Okay, I couldn't have done any more. It was maximal, it was a 10. Okay. In the RIR system, which RIR means reps in reserve, that 10 is a 0, meaning I couldn't have done any more reps. So for a submax set in RIR terms, let's say I do 5 reps with a barbell squat. And with that 5 reps, I could have done 7, right? So I could have done 7, I did 5, so that's 2 reps in reserve. It's equal to an 8 RPE. Okay, so you see how they're inverse scales of each other, and that's why a lot of people would probably disagree with me in saying that RP, a 9 could be 1 to 2 reps left, and 8 could be, 3 or 4 reps left, or something like that. To make these scales actually work and be less vague than they already are, okay, the easiest way to use them is to just equate RPE and RIR as inverse, so that an RP of 10 is an RIR of 0, an RP of 9 is an RIR of 1, and so on and so forth. Okay, so they're just inverted scales of each other. Okay, RP and RIR are best used, in my opinion, in conjunction with something else. It takes a little bit of experience to actually use it by itself, but there are some general guidelines that you can look to use when you're using just RPE. We can add some kind of qualitative describers of kind of the RPE RIR system. So the qualitative way to describe some of these is I group these first two together, RP of 10 or 9. Okay, to describe this is whenever, if you've seen a lot of lifts, deadlift, squat, bench, things like that, at this point you are really starting to grind. Okay, the bar speed has dropped significantly. Okay, and now what were snappy reps and then smooth reps, and maybe have slowed down some, okay, now they are really grinding and slowing that bar down. Okay, that's how you know you're getting close to that 9 or 10. Okay, the 7 to 8 is you get a significant, or you get a noticeable slowdown. So in the beginning of a set, say you're doing a set of 8, and those first 3, 4, 5 reps, they all kind of look similar. Okay, but now as you breach into 6, 7, 8, you can start to see that bar slow down. It's noticeable. It's there. Okay, that's how you know you're getting close to the 7 or 8 mark. Is that you have 2 or 3 reps left. As I can see that bar is starting to slow down. Okay, and then this 6 or this 5, everything is snappy, has lots of pop. Okay, so the bar really doesn't slow down here. You don't see any sort of decrement in speed. Everything kind of looks the same for the most part. Okay, so we've got this kind of qualitative description of what these look like. Okay, but there's also why and how would I spend time at each of these kind of, we'll call them zones, an RP, RIR zone. Okay, so this 10 or 9, this is the summit of Everest. Actually, I'll erase this. Okay, this very tippy top up here, I would consider this the summit of Everest. Now, why would I say that? Because you can't spend much time there. You can't just keep going there day after day after day, right? When you get to the summit of Everest, you're actively dying. You have to come down at some point. You can't just camp out at the summit of Everest. You are slowly, and for some, very quickly dying at the top. Okay, so this is a very intense place to be, and not too many, I won't say no one can, but not too many people can spend an appreciable amount of time up there. Okay, so very intense, lots of benefit potentially, but a high cost. The 7 to 8 RPE, I would call this sweet spot. This is a place in which I can get a lot of good work, and it's intense enough that I can actually start to replicate some of the demands of, if I'm a power lifter, I can replicate some of the demands of my sport, which is a 1 rep max. So this 7 to 8, it's intense enough that I get a lot of transfer. I get practice lifting heavier weights. I get a lot of those physiological things and tension and all of the stuff that has a really high transference to that 1 RM. But it's not so heavy that I can't do a lot of work. So we know the connection between volume and hypertrophy and strength, and that if I can do more of something, a certain intensity, typically that leads to greater gains, whether I'm looking at a single set or multiple set or over a career, right? Volume of quality sets and quality reps means a whole lot. And the 7 to 8 RPE or this 2 to 3 RIR is where I can really gather a lot of volume load of quality work. And then this 6 to 5, this would be my strength maintenance. Also can be used for technique. Some will use it for power, this sort of like strength speed sort of part of the spectrum. Okay, you can use it for that too. But for the most part, this is really great if I'm not really trying to push my strength, right? If I'm just trying to maintain, trying to build good technique or get out of bad technique. This is a sort of effort I can give. And I don't necessarily have to get really focused. I can kind of go through the motions if I need to. I don't have to get super aroused. And that a lot of time is what really gets you in terms of fatigue and a decrease in central drive is a large amount of arousal to lift weights. So that kind of catch up to you. So this is a great strategy to keep your lifts relatively chill. Okay, I can just walk and I can hit a 5 or a 6 RPE or a 5 or a 4 RIR pretty much any day and have great technique. I won't be compensating, so I can work on my technique if I need to. And there's lots of speed, not a lot of grinding reps, not a lot of fatiguing reps, but it's still heavy enough I can maintain my strength. Okay, so this is kind of how I view different effort levels from 9 to 10, 8, 7, and 6 and 5. Now let's go over some practical examples of how RPE and RIR can work for us. Okay, let's say that your max deadlift is 200 pounds. Okay, and if I want to do just a typical kind of, in my wheelhouse, super solid prescription using percentages, I would use, everyone loves 80% for 5s, okay? So I would use 80% times 3 sets of 5, say, okay, with this. Now let's assume that, and this is where percentages would fail us, okay, if I'm not feeling great that day, I didn't sleep good the past couple of days, I broke up with my significant other, whatever, I'm not currently at this level of readiness. If I went in and I maxed out on that day, I would only get 185. So my actual 1 RM is 185. So this is about a 7% fatigue, which is not crazy. This is, you know, completely feasible. This happens all the time. A 7% fatigue is not anything crazy. I've had way more. I've had 10 to 15%, which is kind of crazy, but in extreme circumstances, it does happen. So that estimated 1 RM will really drop depending on if you have some life circumstances come up, or if you have big lifts. Like those can also draw your estimated 1 RM, your readiness down, you know, immediately following after that. So now what was our 200-pound deadlift is now 185 pounds, okay, assuming a 7% fatigue. Okay, and my prescription for 80% with 200 pounds is typically 160, okay? 80% of 200 is 160. So this is equal to 80% of 200. All right. Now that I'm fatigued, right, I don't necessarily know my max is 185, but I'm still going to load up that 160 because that's what the percentage calls for. But now, instead of putting on 80%, now because of this reduced max, now it's 86% of 185. Okay, so you see how now my percentage on the bar of my 1 RM has now jumped from 80 to 86. Why does this matter? Okay, when we map out how many reps we can do at certain intensities, right? I won't get into it really deeply, but what we know is that for the most part, at 80%, 1 RM, I can typically do 7 reps. It's about my 7 RM-ish, okay? Now, what else do we know? At 86%, what is my rep max at that? And it's going to be about 5, okay? About my 5 RM. So now, what I've done is instead of loading on a weight, 160, loading on a weight that I can do, if this is my 7 RM, 80%, now I'm doing 3 sets of 5 at an 8 RPE or a 2 RIR. This is the original prescription based on it being 80%, but it's not 80%, it's 86. So now what I end up doing, because this is 86%, this actually becomes 86% times 3 by 5, and this is 10 RPE or 0 reps in reserve. So I'm hitting 3 maximal sets of 5 because my readiness is lowered, right? Instead of my 200-pound max on any given day, I only have 185 pounds that I'm capable of because of fatigue. So this is how RP and RIR can be combined with percentages to build a really great prescription. Me personally, I would use percentages, I would use RPE, RIR, and I'd probably use velocity-based training too in my own personal training. And what this does is I can give you a percentage, I can give you an actual weight. That's how you know to kind of warm up, okay, and maybe a weight that you might achieve. But what you can do is as you warm up and you start hitting weights closer and closer to that, you can know if that is feasible or not to reach the required level of effort. Okay, so if I give you a percentage, I give you a level of effort I want you to hit, it should be an 8 RPE. If you warm up, and on a warm-up set before you even get to your percentage that you're prescribed for that day, you realize that it ain't going to happen, right? I'm not going to be able to hit this weight he wants me to hit because that warm-up just felt like death. Okay, so now what you can do is you can find a weight to fulfill that prescription of effort. Okay, that's the purpose of RPE and RIR. It's a backstop to make sure that you don't go too hard. And I am the worst person of telling you this because I go way too hard too often. So don't be like me. Use this system of my suggestion of percentages plus RPE, RIR. To fill in the gaps of your readiness. So I can go into this deeper in a subsequent video. Let me know if this was helpful. Comment, like, subscribe, and drop in the comments. Tell me what else you would like to see in terms of programming, in terms of different methods, whether it's lifting or running or whatever. Just give me a shout out. Let me know what you'd like to learn, and I will create a video for you, an educational piece to teach you. Thanks.